Once upon in a small town in Nigeria, two neighbors lived right across each other. Their house was next each, their windows almost glued, and their doors always open to other. Each of these neighbors had a daughter, Adama and Akoma. Adama and Akoma were much more than just neighbors. They were the best friends in world. They had grown up together, playing in the dusty streets, running barefoot through the fields, chasing the butterflies and climbing the big mango trees in the middle of their streets. They laughed together, cried together, and sometimes over who would the biggest piece of grilled from Martin Neckas since their youth. They did everything together. They attended the same primary, sitting side by side in class. When they entered secondary school, they once again found themselves in the same class. As if fate itself knew they were inseparable. Their bond was further strengthened when they were both admitted to the same all-girls boarding school. There they shared a bunk bed. Adama slept on top, Akoma on the bottom. They confided their secrets. Until late at night, the boys they loved, their dream of success, and their promise to remain best friends forever. The years passed, and they worked hard at school. Adama was always the one who got the best grades, prizes during school ceremonies. Akoma was well too, but his results were not as brilliant as Adama. However, no jealousy was between them. When the time came to enter the university, they both their entrance, and were admitted to one of best universities in Nigeria. Their parents were proud, their neighbors in lies, and the whole city celebrated these two brilliant young girls. After university, they began to look for work. Adama, with her usual grace and intelligence, first a job in a big oil company. But she didn't her best friend. She spoke of Akoma to her boss, and shortly afterwards, Akoma was also hired in the same company. People often murmured that these two friends were like sisters. "Are you sure they are not blood?" asked the neighbors. Adama and Akoma laughed every time they heard this. They shared everything: food, clothes, and even the secrets of their love. But little by little, something began to change. One day Adama received a promotion at work. The company sent abroad for 6 months. For a special, she was so happy, and held Akoma in her arms. "When I come back, I will you lots of presents," she promised. Faithful to her word, when Adama returned from abroad, she brought back bags full of beautiful clothes, perfumes, and jewelry. Everyone was happy for her. Shortly afterwards, the suitors began to queue to ask for Adama's seducers came knocking at her door. Some were rich, others were nice, but all seemed to want to Adama. One day, Adama was invited to a big birthday. She had the perfect, but she lacked the worn-out. Akoma had a magnificent pair of heels that matched perfectly with the dress. "Please, can I borrow your shoes?" asked Adama. Akoma smiled. "Of course, are we not like sisters? I borrow your business all the time." At the party, everyone admired Adama's look. "At her shoes," murmured the people. "She looks like a queen." But from that day strange began to happen. Adama suddenly ill. It started with a headache. Then she started to vomit blood. She was taken to the hospital, but the doctors found nothing abnormal. At work, the situation deteriorated again. Colleagues who greeted warmly before avoided now. Even her boss, who once with compliments, now her eyebrows. One morning, she was summoned to a meeting and falsely accused of money in company. "Me stealing?" Adama was shocked. Two of Adama's who courting her suddenly stopped responding to her calls without any explanation. Unwrapped and broken, Adama stayed alone one evening, eyes turned to sky. "Something is wrong," murmured. "But what?" Days were passing by and Adama's was getting she often fainted, and had terrifying one morning. She woke up with a sharp in her leg. Looking at her, she that her feet were so swollen that she could hardly move. Her legs became heavier and heavier, and little by little, they began to release a smell: nausea. Adama could no longer go to work. She lost her job, accused without proof. She was forced to return to the village. There, she spent her days sitting under the big tree near her house, crying slowly. One evening, as the sun was in the sky painting orange, an old man passed by. Seeing Adam crying, he stopped. "My daughter," he said slowly, "don't cry. The cause of your suffering comes from someone close, very close to you." Adama's began to beat harder. "Someone close? But who?" The old man prayed for Adama. He also him a traditional made of leaves. He told to stay strong and believe that she would heal. Strangely, after 7 days his legs began to heal. The influx decreased, the bad smell disappeared, and she could walk again. But something even more shocking happened. On the 7th day, Akoma fell seriously ill. She barely stood up, and her leg began to dry out and darken. Weakened, Akoma sent for Adama. 3 days later, Adama arrived in town. When she entered the room, her heart was beating wildly. "What's the matter, Akoma?" she asked in a trembling voice. Tears were streaming down Akoma's face. "Adama," she whispered, "I've got something to tell you." Adama took a step forward. "What is it?" "It's me," sobbed Akoma. "I did this to you. I was jealous. Jealous of everything. Your work, your trip abroad. Even the men who wanted to marry you." Adama's opened in amazement. "What are you talking about?" Akoma continued. "I went see a fetishist on the eve of the party. I knew you were going to ask me for this shoe, because it was better with your dress than all yours. I saw a perfect to hit him. I told I wanted you to suffer. I didn't want it to go that far." Adama couldn't believe his ears. "You, my best friend, the one I trusted with my secrets, the one I brought into my business. I could trust you with my life." Akoma sobbed uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." Adama left the house without a word. She went to see an old colleague and spent the night, but she couldn't close eyes. She was about everything that had gone on. And yet, Akoma's seemed even worse. Should I take to see the man who healed me? Or should I let her face the consequences of her evilness? After 3 days' reflection, she couldn't help but let her be in this state. "This is my best friend. I will forgive him. But we will now very careful with her." So she took him to the old man who had prayed for her. He gave Akoma the same traditional, and little she got over it. But he kept her safe. "If you the evil, you will die." Even if she was healed, Akoma never all her strength. She had lost especially weight, and especially his left foot was amputated. From that day on, Akoma lived with the constant reminder that jealousy is like a fire. Once lit, it can destroy everything in its path. As for Adama, she learned to be cautious in her relationships, but her heart remained kind and forgiving. Akoma, now with only one leg, stayed at home for days silent. The lively and cheerful who once walked alongside Adama, now forward with a cheek-pale-face heart. Even she hurt by the betrayal of her best friend, Adama visited her every day. She brought her food, water, and sometimes she just sat by her in silence. "Why you still here?" asked Aloli. Adama looked at slowly. "Because, despite what you did, we grew up together. You are like a sister to me." And sisters do give. Akoma shed her tears. Time passed. And little, Adama rebuilt her life. She found a new job in an even bigger, where her skills were recognized and respected. And here is the end of our story. If you liked it, don't to leave a blue and tell us, as a human, if you would be able to forgive such a betrayal from your friend.